Hello everyone, it's Jen from Scrapbena Creations. Welcome back to another 10 card video. This time I'm using the Doodlebug Winter Wonderland. And if you're a Doodlebug fan, I'm sure you have seen this collection. I love the colors, the soft blues, the teals, the pinks, and the purples. Such a pretty collection and fun for winter time. So this collection has a lot of different items that you can purchase. I will link to the entire collection below, as well as the individual products I use and all other products that I use today in the video. So if you want to see things a bit closer, go ahead, expand the description box, and all the links will be there for you. So for today, I'm going to be using the paper pad and the mini icons. There are die cut packs, but I find that they're often too big for cards. So I like these mini icons. You get 2 sheets of stickers, which I feel like is good value for your dollar. And I feel like I can fit more images onto a card if I want to make a little scene. So for card number 1, we're starting out pretty simple. I cut 2 pieces of the pattern paper with stitched rectangle dies. And I'm just going to go ahead here and create a little scene. I do like to keep the video in order of the cards that I made so that you can see the process of my card making as I move through the 10 cards. So I loved this purple paper. The pattern is like a knit sweater and it goes really nicely with the purple snowflakes and all the other colored snowflakes in the pattern paper that I'm using for the focal panel. I also cut out a stitched oval die. These are Heffy Doodle ovals and I love them. They cut the stitching on the inside of the oval as well as the outside, so you can also create frames with them. I went ahead and stamped out most of the sentiments that I could in advance. This sentiment says, "You are simply the best," and this is from MFT Biddy Thanks and Gratitude. I use this on a couple of the cards. It's a great sentiment stamp and I thought it was fitting for this particular card. I wanted the little snow person and the moose to look like they were friends. And so that was kind of the theme I was going for with this one. Once I get these 2 little characters into place, I'm going to add some snowflakes and that will finish off this card. So for these cards, I didn't want all of them to be winter related. I wanted to use some sentiments that were more geared towards friendship so that I could send these out to some crafty friends and some family just to kind of say hello over the winter and hopefully brighten their day. So once I get these snowflakes on, we can go ahead and move on to card number 2, which is probably one of my favorites. The Yetis in this collection are just so cute. So you can see here I've got everything laid out. Again, I'm going to use a large rectangle panel for the background of this card. All of my cards today are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is a standard A2 size card. I also cut out a rectangle of the snowy pattern paper and then used some white glitter cardstock for the snow where my little Yeti will be sitting. To add some fun to the background, I used the mountain sticker here and I'm just going to place that behind the snowbank and that will hide that white border nicely. Then I'm going to go ahead and put these little sky trams up to the top. These are absolutely adorable. I love the little Yeti waving on the inside of one of the little trams with his skis. So I am just going to have the one with the Yeti straight to the card and then that one to the right hand side. You can see I kind of put like it was going up the mountain, so a little bit on an angle. And then I'm going to place this cute little Yeti that is sitting on top of the sentiment which says, "Yeti, it's cold outside," and this is a sentiment from the Fawn Yeti or Not stamp set that recently came out. Because I'm adhering this to the glitter paper, I did want to use some score tape here just to make sure that that stayed in place, and I will add a little bit of liquid glue as well. And then once I get that sentiment on to the bottom of the panel, I'll move the little Yeti so he is actually going to sit over top of the sentiment and that just grounds him a little. For a final touch, I'm going to add one of the little birdie stickers to the top of the mountain, just for an added bit of cuteness. And then I'm going to go ahead here, and I wanted to draw in the lines here that the sky trams are kind of moving on. I decided to do that with a gray pencil crayon or colored pencil because I didn't want to use a black marker. I thought that would stand out too much. So I do like the look of that with the gray colored pencil. Moving on to card number 3. This is an example of where I used the Heffy Doodle stitched oval to cut out a frame. And again, this is another pattern paper that reminds me of a sweater. So I'm going to use that for the main panel of the card here. And then I cut some of the darker blue pattern paper. It has snowflakes on the back of it as well. And again, use some glitter cardstock for the snowbank. I'm going to adhere that down to a card panel, and then I'm going to add another piece of cardstock here to the bottom. I wanted to do that to ensure that the card base itself was level for when I adhered the pattern paper with the oval frame cut out of it. This just makes sure that that bottom part won't dip when I go to put this on. So once I get the frame panel into place, I can go ahead and I can get my little critters here. Now, when I'm getting these cards ready in advance, sometimes they change as I get them on to the card. You can't always tell from designing what's going to fit if there's extra room, and this is a good example of that. So at first I had 3 little critters out, and I thought that that would fill the little scene. So I had the moose and the little fox or wolf and the bunny. And once I started placing them on and actually taking that backing of the stickers off, I realized that I could fit in another little critter. So you'll see me bring in the little reindeer or moose, well, I guess it's a moose, as well to kind of fill out this scene. Now, in prepping for these cards, what I do is I go ahead and I cut out all of the stickers, and then I just kind of organize them by critter, and I put the trees together. There's lots of snowflakes in the sticker set, so I'd put those all into a pile, and then I just start going through them and seeing which ones I want to use on cards, and that's kind of how I move through the process. So for this one, I also wanted to have a really kind of bold sentiment. So one of the things I think when you're using these smaller images or stickers is that you can balance them out by using larger sentiments. So you can see to the bottom left hand side there, I have this hello die cut out. This is an MFT die. And I cut that out of the same blue pattern paper that I used for the sky of the background of our little focal scene. And I went ahead and cut out the word friend as well. Now that friend is also from the Biddy Thanks and Gratitude stamp set. It actually says thanks friend, but I just cut it out so that I had the word friend only. So once I finally get these little critters into place, I'm going to go ahead and adhere that hello sentiment to my card panel. And I'm just adding some liquid glue to these stickers where they are adhering to the glitter cardstock. This is just to ensure that they actually adhere well and I don't have to worry about them coming off of the glitter cardstock. And you'll see a few times throughout the video that I add a large stamp block over top just to make sure that that adhesive sets nicely. So here's where I'm going to kind of play around with where I want the sentiment. At first I thought I wanted the hello in the sentiment, but I'm actually going to place it a little bit to the right hand side of the card, and I feel like that just balances it out a lot better. So I'm going to adhere this straight down to my card panel here, and then I'll go ahead and add the little friend sentiment underneath that as well. Now if you want to add some more pop to these cards, you could definitely go ahead and add some foam adhesive or fun foam behind the stickers and add some dimension. Sometimes I really just like making simple flat cards that are easy to mail, so I didn't use any foam adhesive in this video at all today. So moving on to the next card, this one I had a lot of fun creating. There's this kind of monochromatic white and gray pattern paper that has snowflakes on it and some of the little characters. So I wanted to use that as the background. I was thinking of this card a little bit more of a masculine type card, and so I decided on the plaid paper for the bottom. And here again, I'm going to have a large sentiment just so I can offset the smaller size of the stickers and really kind of fill in that space on my card. So this is a happy birthday die from MFT, and I just went ahead and cut out the happy part with the blue snowflake pattern paper, and I kept the piece of the pattern paper that I cut the alphas out of and just adhered that to my card. This is going to help me ensure that I get all of my letters equally spaced the way they were intended. So you can see once I have them in place, I can peel up that piece of paper that's helping guide, and I have perfect placement. Super easy. I'm going to add the little snow person here inside the snowmobile. Now, we have many names for these in Canada. I'd love to know what you call them in your country. We call them skidoos, we call them snowmobiles. Some people I know talk about it in terms of sledding, so I may use that term interchangeably, but I thought it would be cute to have the little snowman driving the snowmobile. So I'm going to place him right on top of that pattern plaid paper, and then I'm going to use this sentiment that says winter. Now this one is from Simon Says Stamp Winter Hugs. So the sentiment will be happy winter, and in that stamp set there's also a couple of these little sentiments. This one says you warm my heart, and I'm just going to add that on top of the happy, and I feel like that balances out the black of the winter nicely. And then because there are so many little snowflakes in the sticker set, I went ahead and used those to embellish the card. So moving on to card number 5, we're already halfway through. I used the little cut apart strip as some inspiration for this card. This helped me with the layout. There was this really nice wood grain paper, and I thought that would make it look sort of like a countertop. And then I went ahead and used the teal colored snowflake pattern paper for the top. And here's the strip that inspired this card. I'm going to add that on top of the snowflake paper just to give a border between the two different pattern papers. Now for this card, I'm going to stamp the sentiment to the just underneath that strip of paper to the right hand side. And I'm going to use my embossing buddy here just to make sure there's no static and I get a crisp impression. For this card, I wanted to use the sentiment that said, you warm my heart, which is from MFT Hug in a Mug. But somewhere in the process of making these cards, I couldn't find it. So I ended up switching out the sentiment from the same stamp set. I believe this one says, sending you a cup of cheer. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to heat emboss this in white. Now, I realize after I do this, I must have had the heat gun either too close or I left it on too long, and it discolored the white of the embossing powder and almost gave it like a yellowy color. So I'm going to try to fix that by bringing in my white gel pen. But in the end, I end up changing out the sentiment. So you'll see when I show you all of the 10 cards at the end of the video, I actually found my stamp that says you warm my heart, and I stamped that out with some Mermaid ink by Fawn just on some white cardstock, and I went ahead and covered up this first sentiment. I just really didn't like how it turned out. In terms of placing the little images here, I was trying to decide if I wanted to leave a space between that border or if I wanted to have them sitting on top of it. I did end up deciding to have them sitting kind of right on that little strip. And I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball putting these in place. I want them as evenly spaced as possible. I am following the pattern from that little cut apart border. So I'm having them in the same order that they appear on that cut apart strip. I'm not adhering these down right away. I'm just kind of very lightly adding them. And then once I realize I've got them in the spot that I want them, then I'll go ahead and push them down. To finish this off, I'm going to use 3 hearts. I'm going to spread them out, one over each of the blue mugs and then one in the center over the travel coffee mug. And I think that just balances it out nicely. And then that card is complete and we can move on to card number 6. Here's where I'm showing you that I was trying to fix this with the white gel pen. This is a number 10 gel pen and it's new to me and it's nice and thick and I do love it. I just, in the end, really didn't like how this sentiment turned out. So not a problem, easy fix, can just go ahead and put a new sentiment over top of it. For card number 6, this is a very simple card. I've gone ahead and cut out the little snowman pattern paper with a stitched rectangle die, and then I'm using my Heffy Doodle heart dies here to create a focal point with the pink and white snowflake pattern paper. And I'm going to add 3 of the snow people on to that focal point. I thought this kind of looked like a little family of snow people just because of the different sizes. That was kind of the inspiration for this card. So I'm just going to place them in the center of the heart. And then I stamped out the sentiment, do you want to build a snowman? And this is from the Heffy Doodle stamp set, want to build a snowman. So perfect for this card. And I'm going to just adhere that to the middle of the card. You'll see me here play around with placement a little bit. Wasn't quite sure where I wanted to add the sentiment, but in the end I thought it looked best in the center underneath the heart. And I played around as well whether I wanted to have a little bit of a design element for the sentiment by sloping the sides. In the end, I went for clean and simple edges. And I'm just going to stack that sentiment over top of each other. And you can see there I almost had them out of order. So just making sure that you actually have the sentiment saying what you want it to say is a good tip when you're card making. So that card was super simple. I'm not going to do anything else to it except add 1 snowflake. I play around with the placement here. I wanted that snowflake to kind of bring your eye down to the sentiment, and that will complete card number 6. So moving on to card number 7, I had this leftover pattern paper, and you can see there's a little bit of a chunk of the paper missing, just how I had to cut out another piece of the paper for another card. So I'm going to try to use this panel. I didn't want it to go to waste, and I wanted it to be the background for this card. So there's a little bit more of the snow hills on this card that I would have liked, but it is what it is, and it allowed me to use that pattern paper. So I'm using my Slopey Joe border dies from Heffy Doodle, and I cut out 2 panels with some white glittered cardstock. And this is just going to be a fun little winter scene. So I have the house sticker. I'm going to add a couple of the tree stickers as well. And then I have some cute little critters that I will add to the card as well. And I love the little scene that this ends up creating. So this is a good example of what I was talking about, where the size of the mini icon stickers really allow you to create scenes on standard size cards. It would be very difficult to create a scene like this using the die cuts. I have used the die cut packs before and I do really like them. Both of them give you a very different look, so you just kind of have to figure out what suits your card making style better. So I'm going to tuck the little polar bear behind the first snowbank, and then I'm going to have the little bunny beside him. I'm going to have the little wolf here to the left hand side of the card. Again, I'm just using some liquid glue to ensure that that sticks to the glitter cardstock. Once I have my critters on to my little scene here, I can go ahead and I can work on the sentiment. Again, for this one, I am using the Simon Says Stamp Winter Hugs stamp set. And I am going to stamp this 3 times with my Versafine Clair ink. And that's just because I really wanted it to stand out on that pattern paper. To get that nice bold look, I did stamp it multiple times. And I thought this was a sweet little sentiment that you could send to anyone to brighten their day during the winter. So it says winter hugs with the heart. Moving on to card number 8. This is a very simple card. And again, I was thinking more of a masculine kind of appeal with this card. So I'm using the tree pattern paper and I'm going to adhere that, as you can see, to the left hand side of the card. And then we have this little Yeti who is walking. So I kind of wanted to make it look like he was walking off the card. There are 3 little Yeti footprints that come in the sticker sheet, which is super adorable in my opinion. And so I'm just using how they were placed on the sticker sheet to kind of guide me for placement on the card. So I'm going to have the little trail of Yeti feet behind him. And that will pretty much do it for the design of this card. I am going to stamp out the sentiment underneath the footprints. And I'm using a longer sentiment here just to kind of fill in that white space again. So this is from the Yeti or Not stamp set, again by Fawn. And I'm going to stamp out Yeti or Not, It's Your Birthday. So I thought that this would make for a good birthday card, maybe for a young teen. So that will do it for that card. Really clean and simple. So moving on to card number 9, I'm going to use another one of the Yetis. I just couldn't help myself. I felt like I needed to use all of them. There's this adorable Yeti pattern paper. So I'm going to use that for the bottom of the card. On the sticker sheet, there are these 2 striped border stickers. So I'm going to use that to place a border in between the white card panel and the pattern paper itself. I'm going to add this sentiment here and have the little Yeti standing on the sentiment. And again, using the Yeti It's Cold Outside sentiment from Fawn. I thought that went well. And this card, I think, is really gender neutral as well. It could be sent to anyone. So once I get that sentiment stamped out, again, I did stamp this a couple times, I can go ahead and place my Yeti on to the card base. And like I said, I did want it to look like he was standing on that sentiment, just to ground him a little. And then I'm going to use 3 of these snowflakes, trying to use as many of the snowflakes as I can. And once I have those down, then we can move on to card number 10, which almost wasn't. If you saw my Facebook post, you will know that I had completed the video editing and all, and then realized I only made 9 cards. So I needed to come back and make the 10th, and it was kind of funny because this turns out to be one of my favorites from the 10 cards. So this card is inspired by a stamp set called Winter Friends by Trinity Stamps. And the sentiment that I'm using is good friends are like snowflakes, all different and all beautiful. Now what I love about the Trinity stamps is a lot of their sentiments, the coordinating dies come with a die that will cut out the sentiment. I stamped the sentiment onto some pink pattern paper. die cut that out, and it fits nicely underneath my stitched rectangle panel here. I wanted to keep this focal panel white because with adding the little critters one on top of the other, I wanted to minimize that white border of the stickers. So you can see here I'm adding the 3 little critters on top of each other, and then finally placing the little bird on top of the antlers of our little moose there, which I think is super adorable. And again, just bringing in a bunch of those snowflakes to use them up as much as I can. And they go perfectly with the snowflake pattern paper that I used behind the focal panel. So that's card number 10 complete. I'm going to go ahead and slow this down now, and I'm going to show you all 10 of the cards that I made today. I had so much fun working with this collection. I love all of the cards, and I hope you enjoyed them as well. Feel free to let me know which one is your favorite. Here I'm just showing you where I fixed that sentiment for the warm beverage card. But I hope you have enjoyed this 10 card video. I feel like I haven't done one in a long time, so it was fun to get the pattern paper and stickers out and just kind of play for a day with this collection. All of the products, as I mentioned, will be listed below if you want a closer look at them. Here are a few more 10 card videos to keep you busy while I get another video ready for you soon. So thanks everybody for joining me. Have a fantastic day. Happy 2020. Wishing you all the best in the new year. Bye.